What a piece of junk! So how can you forget the guy who wrote your, like, Batman Education?
I didn't. I remembered Paul Dini.
Oh, the guy who drew it. You know what I mean? Shut up. You're ruining it.
I don't know why. When I started becoming terrible with names, I don't know if I've always just been crap with names.
Oh, I'm really scatty these days. I'm terrible. I forget words for stuff and everything, like halfway through sentences. I'm like, the thing.
Yeah.
The thing with the thing.
I mean, I can write stuff down brilliantly. It looks awesome on the page, and then I try to read it out. And then, but actually, if I'm reading off a script, I'm fine. Good as gold. I'll stutter and trip over the words, but yeah, I get them in the end. I can see what the words are on the page, and I can read them out clearly. But when you're trying to explain something and it just falls apart.
I just remember there was one on here that's really good. Then done, and it's so up your street. Ford W Maverick. I hope that's a real name.
Ford W Maverick.
Ford Maverick.
Sounds like a car.
Starring Ford Maverick. I don't know if you've been asked this yet, but what do you think about them rebooting the Hellboy franchise? The originals are two of my favourite movies, and personally I'd rather see them continue that series, but I don't think I can accept anyone but Ron Perlman as Hellboy.
I'll agree that the Ron Perlman needs to come back as Hellboy.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
That's a shame. There's going to be a TV series. It's going to be awesome.
I remember at one point Ron Perlman said yes, he would do a third one simply to shut people up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the kind of thing you can possibly enjoy, being caked in that kind of makeup for days on end. I'd be quite happy. I'd be quite happy just to see more cartoon versions.
This is going to be a series, though, isn't it? Which I think potentially will lend itself a lot better to the way the comics work.
Maybe, so long as they take the tone of the comics.
Yeah.
You see, I thought Hellboy 2 Golden Army was awful. It was watchable, sure, but it wasn't Hellboy. It was...
That mixed feelings, because I quite like the second one.
Well, it was Del Toro. It was Del Toro's version of Hellboy.
Yeah, sure.
Which is perfectly acceptable, but it wasn't the Hellboy
I always felt like the first one was a lot of that, and I always feel like there's a lot of conflict in the first one between the ideas. I always feel like there's this crash of what Mignola wanted to make and what Del Toro wanted to make. Well, and you definitely get that if you read the art book, the making of. Like, the stuff that Mignola talks about in there is like, wow, you were really pissed off during this, weren't you? And I also find it interesting that I personally think he kind of gave up after that. You just notice that he just stopped giving a shit.
Yeah, I saw that in his
Nobody
comic.
gets it, fuck it.
Yeah.
And it just feels like that was a whole thing.
I felt that the first Hellboy film had a lot more Mignola in it than the sequel. I
just felt it was, for me, I felt it was stronger when it went away from the source material. It was
when it became full on Del Toro.
Yeah, when Golden Army, it's kind of not referencing the comics. It's kind of got nothing to do with the comic books. It's its own story, and I found that easier to watch than them butchering their way through books that I'd love.
Yeah,
and I know because I get how film works. I know that you have to change it to make it work as a film.
Yeah, I understand adaptation.
But there's stuff, but I just shit in there that just things that you said it actually about the tone. If they get the tone right, the tone of it was wrong for me. That whole secret superhero organisation where nobody knows who he is.
Yeah, I didn't like the thought of
all that stuff.
Secret.
Just took away from, for me, what I loved about the comics.
Well, it made it feel like it was Men in Black.
And I hated that, because it's not, because he's just a working Joe.
Yeah, the BPRD is a known organisation.
And I loved the idea that Hellboy was just this accepted thing. Because we've seen that story. We've seen he doesn't fit in and he's not like us storyline. And what I loved about Hellboy books was that was never part of it.
He's just roaming around in the public.
Yeah, no one gave a shit. And I loved that.
The thing is, if there's monsters on every street corner, and if there's so many monsters in the world, you actually need a division of the government to look after them. No one is going to bat an eyelid if they see someone fighting again. If they see one monster beating up another monster.
The other thing as well that I loved about the comics was the idea of... It's something that I loved about the original Doctor Who. like the stuff I grew up with. And thankfully what seems to be coming back into the newer ones, thank Christ, is the idea of like the world ending in somebody's basement.
Yeah.
That idea of tangible believability. It's like, because it doesn't happen over a big city with millions of witnesses, you think that could be happening somewhere, and it adds that lovely little magic to it that you had when you were a kid. Because when you're a kid, you believe it. You're like, oh, that'd be cool if that was happening. What if it is? And you had that because it was happening in the basement of a rotty old building in the middle of nowhere, and nobody could prove or disprove that it happened. But then you shift it to this idea of like a big wormhole opening in the sky above New York City,
and
you're
everyone's seeing it.
That's clearly not going to happen.
Stops being special.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's like, I loved all that in Hellboy. When I read the first one, I actually read the second book first, which is probably a good thing because the first one's not as well written. Because Mignola didn't write the first one. He thought he wasn't going to be that good a writer, so he gave it to somebody else to write it.
Oh.
And then he wrote Andrew, the second one. It's fucking amazing.
Which was the second one? Was that?
It's the one with all the vampires and that castle and everything. When he gets dropped in with the broken rocket pack and all that stuff. It's just fucking amazing. And like, I read that cover to cover in an evening, which I'd like barely done with anything ever. Because nothing had held me like that, and I just went, this is literally one of the best things I've ever read. Because it just broke all the rules. It just went, why not? Fuck it. And it's like, I kind of wanted that. And if they do that for the series, I'm well on board for it.
Again,
regardless who the fuck they get to play it.
It would be awesome if they actually set it in the same time period as the books were written.
Yeah.
They were all set early 90s.
Yeah, totally.
And no one ever reflects on the 90s at the
No,
moment.
don't.
It all goes back to the 80s or earlier.
Yeah.
If they're doing period stuff.
Yeah.
No one does anything in the 90s. And I'm sort of...
Again, the 90s is kind of more where I grew up. I mean, I was a child of the 80s, but I was very young.
And it's just... I always feel that the 90s had this excellent balance between... this excellent balance for technology, where there was enough technology for stuff to be exciting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like if you look at Speed or Scream and things like that, there's enough tech in there to make stuff work, but not so much tech that it starts hindering your story.
I just mean tech in general, like day-to-day, how you go about your life, technology.
Yeah, totally.
Because, I mean, these days... you don't get excited about technology. No one does.
No,
there used to be
ridiculous.
There used to be console wars and stuff.
Yeah.
And there would be the Sega fanboys and the Nintendo fanboys. And they would beat the shit out of each other in the schoolyard.
Yeah, we live in Star Trek now.
Yeah, they don't do that.
So no one gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, or everyone has the console already. Or
exactly.
All 5 of these machines. There isn't that. There was that. Everything, all the technology was still exciting at that point. It wasn't just normal. There was,
Yeah.
So having setting a story like Hellboy in that period would be quite interesting, quite exciting.
Yeah, totally. The technology's still a bit limited and a bit retro and a bit interesting.
I hate the fact that everything is a hologram in science fiction at the moment.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Everything's holographic, which is why.
See, that is one thing, right? That was it The Expanse? That's one thing that I saw a bit of it. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw there was a space battle that someone had put up. So best space battle in a thing ever.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, go on then, I'll watch this. And there's one thing in it that I already have a hang up about it. Yes, it's very good, very cool. All the way the ships move and everything's really spot on science fiction. Yeah. But then they've done that thing that is another plague of modern sci-fi that I want to hit them for. They've got the flimsy little glass monitors that are just held there by 2 little pins on a fucking spaceship. You're like, no! It should be like a big fucking steel thing that you could hit with a monkey wrench for an hour and it would do nothing. It's like if you look at the inside of the Battlestar Galactica, that's what a spaceship would look like, especially if there's a war machine. It's like if you've seen the inside of a battleship, it hasn't changed since the 40s. Because... you don't have crap like that on a spaceship or anything like that, where anything can move around or things flying about and stuff can get broken.
Was it actually
stuff that's controlling your life gets broken?
Was it actually one of the warships that monitor was on? I can't remember.
I think so. Yeah, they were all in like little gun seats and everything. Right. And like the actual screens were like these pathetic little bits of transparent plastic. I was like,
there are a couple of different ship designs in that one, and the more utilitarian vessels are proper.
Yeah, and I'm not just coming at it from like an I like grungy 80s sci-fi point of view.
It's practical.
I do. Yeah, I'm literally talking about that. It's like if you're going for realism, fucking go for it, because that's what it would look like. You're not going to have shit that's just going to disintegrate in those kind of situations.
Well, you wouldn't want. I mean, space. It's the most hostile environment you can go into.
If these computers are controlling like life support and all those kind of things, you want them to be fucking indestructible, and they'd be running like DOS and stuff as well.
But they probably wouldn't even be screens. They'd be buttons on a wall.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like you look at them. The International Space Station and the inside of shuttles and stuff. There's like one tiny little like little CRT monitor, and the rest of it's just flip switches. You know,
stuff that you
have to be able to also you also have to be able to physically look at it and see if it's on or off. And also that button physically changes the connection. You know, by flipping it, it makes a physical connection. It's not telling a computer to run a program that does this.
I've recently started playing a game which I've been meaning to play for ages, Metro 2033 or something.
Yeah.
Which is guess what? It's a post-apocalyptic thing.
Oh, fuck me. I'm glad I was sitting down. That shocked. I could have hurt myself.
But it's set on underneath Moscow.
Yeah.
And everything is very utilitarian there. Like the doors.
I think I've heard of it.
The doors can be. The doors were always intended to be like automated and stuff.
Yeah.
There's little switches beside them.
Yeah.
And at one point, there's an NPC who tells you, right, hit the switch to open the door, and it doesn't work. And it's a manual override. And next to it, there's this valve thing which you can turn. And I like that because in science fiction, you always sort of look at these streamlined interiors and stuff, and you think, what happens if the button doesn't work? How the hell do you get through that door?
It's like, come on.
I mean, they addressed it in some episodes of Star Trek and stuff, where if a button doesn't work or if the computer goes down, you basically start breaking the ship apart, pulling off panels in the way, and then there's massive switches underneath those panels, which I really like. I love it when everything goes to shit in Star Trek and they have to start tearing the ships apart because it stops being sleek and then you see all the wires and stuff underneath that. I think, yes. I love the little background stuff that goes on,
Totally.
or when they've given a thought to the mechanics of how something works. That to me is always exciting.
Some of the things that is really nice about the Star Wars universe is like stuff looks utilitarian and real. It's like the Millennium Falcon. It's a spaceship and it's completely fantastical, but at the same time it looks like a real thing. It's like it's really grungy and crappy and has switches and controls and
it was
always
always
kind of stuff, you know?
It was always intended to be like a cargo ship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A retrofitted cargo ship. So basically you just got that little living area and the rest of it was supposed to be cargo space.
Yeah, it's just a little Corellian pirate thing that's been heavily modified. I actually managed to get a really cool kit of it from Japan, like the detail on it is insane. But you get to see all the stuff that you don't really see in the films. And there are bits where it literally looks like there's one part on it where it literally looks like an asteroid has just gone straight through the hull and they've just sort of patched it back up. It's got this massive like hole in the outside of it and a huge burn around it.
And if you actually look
there's all stuff kind of like sticking out from underneath where they've sort of bolted it all back together. You're like, it really is a piece of shit.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's just clinging together.
If you look at the model they used in the actual thing, it does have those little asteroid pockmarks and stuff.
So knackered, it's insane.
What a piece of junk!
Yeah, no shit. I'm going to trust you. Came in that thing.
Braver than I thought. Nerd. I think when I first started going into comic book shops, when I first discovered they existed.
Yeah, when you just got out of diapers or whatever.
No, it wasn't until I'm
a guy.
No, it wasn't until I was like in my teens or something.
Yeah, I was the same. I hadn't, mainly for accessibility. There was no other.
Well, I never knew they existed until someone introduced me to the Forbidden Planet.
Someone gave you the gateway drug.
Yeah. Damn them to hell. But one of the I saw this huge model of a Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
like Airfix kit type thing. I can't remember if this was the one that lit up, where it actually had its own little LED things which you could wire through it. But I looked at the price tag on that and thought, if I save up enough money...
Yeah.
I can't remember how much it was. It was probably less than I'm remembering, but I remember it being an astronomical amount.
When you're a kid, it's probably a shitload.
When you're a kid...
70 quid! Yeah. Oh my god!
But, oh god, I would have loved that. I'd still love to have like a Star Destroyer model sat on top of my shelves somewhere.
Yeah. I've got one.
Oh, shelf.
I had it when I was a kid.
God damn you.
It's really cool.
The Airfix thing.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
See, I say I'd like these things, but I don't know if I've actually got the time or patience to glue together something there.
I'm actually getting more into it now, because I kind of enjoy just painting them and stuff, and it's like...
I mean, as a kid, I was
really
used to rush it as a kid.
Yeah, same here.
Because I'd want it to be put together as soon as possible.
Totally.
I didn't have any patience. I mean, if I'd had patience and glued it together, and then glued a bit together, and then waited for that to set, and then come back, and then do it again,
Totally.
But,
so I'm kind of a bit more into it now, because I'm just
because you know that, I've got to wait for this to work.
The payoff is going to be worth it. But as a kid, it was terrible. Like, people used to buy me Airfix kits, and I was just like, I want the plane now. I don't have to build it all. I just want the F1 Tomcat now.
Why couldn't you just buy me a pre-made one?
Yeah, exactly. I just don't care. Why is it not painted? Why does it not look cool straight out of the box?
Did you ever have...
I've got to do work.
Did you ever have any of those like little cut-out cardboard books? They were little books that had a model within them. Every page was a few components of the model, and you had to sort of cut them out and glue them all together to make a cardboard model.
I've actually bought a bunch of those recently, the Star Wars ones they've been doing. They're like foam core. They're like a little book of foam core.
Oh, it's foam, right.
Well, these ones are now, anyway. They probably weren't back then.
Well, no, they were just cardboard.
They're doing them now. It's foam core, and I've got the Millennium Falcon and that... Is it the U-Wing from the Rogue One?
Oh, the Rogue One, yeah.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're doing like the works. You get like a little book, and they have all the bits in it.
Awesome.
The U-Wing's about that big. It's massive.
It's huge.
Yeah. It's like a foot long. It's mental. It looks really cool.
But again, I never had the patience to just sit and wait for the glue to sort of set. I'd want to get the entire thing
these all slot together. You don't have to do any of that. They all just kind of fold together.
It's like the little... I had a metal TIE fighter somewhere which was like that. It came as this little flat pack thing.
Oh yeah, I know.
And
those,
you pop out the bits and you slot it all together.
I haven't built them yet.
And it looks lethal. Now, if you throw it at someone, it'd probably embed itself in
it's like razor sharp bits of like metal.
Health and safety.
They've started doing Batman stuff, and you can get the 1989 Batwing.
Oh wow!
And it looks fucking amazing.
Oh.
Helen got me the Batmobile from the new Batman Superman, which looks awesome. It's quite like the design of that car quite a lot, actually.
I mean, I do like the design of a lot of things. I mean, I do like the Batman costume. It's the person wearing it that I'm not too keen on.
He played Superman as well, which amused the crap out of me.
Batman is... Have you actually seen Hollywoodland?
No, I've not.
I'll have to rewatch that, actually.
Have you actually got it, I bet?
No, I'm afraid I don't have that one.
Damn.
I don't have that one.
Quite fancy that.
I saw it on the telly once.
Because I was curious.
But I think I saw it before I started really getting interested in like 1950s design and stuff. You can blame Fallout for that again. I like 1950s to 1960s aesthetic.
Yeah,
I've really started to get interested in, mostly because I want...
He says looking around the room at the Flash Gordon spaceship and the 1950s sort of Fallout radio and stuff.
Well, you're sitting on a 1950s style chair.
Do you know what I mean? So much of it. And that whole office in there just looks like something out of the Maltese Falcon. Really
I just wish there wasn't so much shit in there that I can't actually sit in it.
I know, it's gutting because you've got the blinds and everything. I'd just be sitting in there with a cigarette all the time.
I mean,
a glass of whiskey.
When I first set that desk up through there, I always thought, right, I'm going to sit in here and do my writing.
Yeah, and just have some jazz playing softly in the background.
And there's so much shit in there now, I can't actually get in.
You just turn around and there's just some femme fatale in the doorway, and you're like,
I can live in
fuck are you?
I live
How did you get in here?
I live in hope.
Mr. Spade? No. Oh, sorry. She just goes like, damn it, no, come back.
I have money. I made it weird.
Why do you ever not? That way. bit strange. It's into some kind of hooker fantasy. I don't understand. Oh, God.
I've never actually watched that many noirish films, you know. I think the most noirish thing I've watched is LA Noir. Not LA Noir, I was going to call it LA Noir. LA Confidential.
Yes, that's it.
Which is quality.
Yeah, it is quality.
I mean,
I've watched a few noir films, and like LA Confidential is kind of how you want them to be,
and they're not.
Yeah,
that's why I've not really chased them in that. LA Confidential is like the best noirish thing you will watch.
Yeah, because
everything else is kind of pales and. I mean, the cast is so.
It's
awesome.
that lovely thing where it's just like it's a sort of nod back to it with hindsight and understanding about how to do stories better. It's like, that's cool. Let's do it properly.
I mean, I picked up there was a box set that I got from one of those cheap end-of-line bookstore things, which was a series aired on probably like something like the Discovery Channel or History Channel, and it was the guy that wrote the book that LA Confidential was based on, and he was sort of touring you around all these seedy stories from LA, all the stuff that realistic, real factual stories and stuff. Unfortunately, two things let this series down.
Is this Hollywood Confidential?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's by there.
Oh, there is, down there.
James Ellroy's Hollywood Confidential.
Unfortunately, there were two things that spoilt it, which meant I couldn't really watch that much of it.
Yeah.
One, he's a horrible narrator. He he might be able to write a story, but he can't actually articulate one that well.
No.
Two, there was a CGI dog, a CGI talking dog, who was sort of his co-star.
What?
I know.
That's really weird.
I
Why?
know. I don't know.
Why is this happening?
I don't know.
That is the last thing I could have ever expected you to say.
I don't know why
so
that
weird.
exists.
What the fuck?
I don't know why it's in there, but it ruined it for me. And I'm so, I put the first disc in. I started watching. I think, oh right, I might actually be able to glean some information like that.
Yeah.
And then he introduces this CGI dog. I think, what?
What's happening?
What,
Through the looking glass here.
Right, you wrote LA Confidential.
Yeah.
And you agreed to be in this.
What?
Did you have bills to pay?
Jesus. That's so weird. So weird.
So I watched like 1 or 2 episodes of that, and then I just had to put it away.
I can't deal with this. Yeah.
I might go back to it at some point if I really need to do some research into that period, but
What a shame.
I mean, I thought, oh right, I'm going to get some great ideas from here.
Yeah. Gutted.
Yeah, kind of. Don't add CGI dogs
Yeah.
to your
There's a rule. There's a rule we can all get behind. Say no to CGI talking dogs.